Welcome to Electrolysis Unplugged, an after-hours chat beyond the probe with Joannie and Stephanie. We're here to dive deep into the world of electrolysis, education, and all things hair removal.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or just curious about the art of permanent hair removal, we've got the insights, tips, and fun stories to keep you plugged in.
So grab your tools, take a seat, and let's get into it. This is Electrolysis Unplugged, brought to you by the Electrology Education Coalition.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Yes. Hello.
Well, do you want to start with the question that was submitted?
Yes.
So I guess to prelude this, Stephanie's next class is going to be the scalability of your electrology practice. And so what she will go into is how to grow your business. So Stephanie, if you want to just kind of talk a little bit about what the next webinar is going to be on and the date and everything, and I'll pull up the info.
Absolutely. And I'm pulling up my little my bullet points. So as we're talking about this, one of the big things that I kind of was in charge of for my family's practice, and obviously restarting now, additionally is doing for me is talking about how we can scale up our business. So some of this is really going to be like, you guys are so incredibly, for the most part, there's a lot of new faces in here. And you quickly learn how you can't really take on it all by yourself. Otherwise you burn yourself out, right? And so finding out ways to create the income that you can maximize in your time that you rent your space or have your space bought by maximizing the time in a treatment room. So this might be utilizing additional employees or contractors. This might be bringing in product lines. This might be structured ways that you build out your treatment plans. And so one of the big things that when I had to start all over again was essentially like, what does my 5-year plan look like? Okay. And one of the things that I thought was interesting for myself, and we'll talk about this a lot at the next lecture, is that we're really good about underestimating ourselves, like, setting, goals, but not necessarily like, oh, I can get to that goal, so I'm going to be happy about like the fact that I hit that. But I hit my 5-year goals in 6 months. Okay.
Wow.
So, and one of those funny things is like, you think about, okay, so like, and I want you guys to just like internalize this, relocated, bought a home, got the kids enrolled in their schools, got our life set back up. I came out here with one machine and one table, right? And like, and that was like something I found on eBay at the time because I couldn't get a machine out to me quick enough, right? That was kind of structuring my how I teach my students to possibly have them as an apprentice down the road if that's something I want to do. It was a matter of knowing that I wanted to go into distribution because I've gotten to play with a lot of things. And so what that looked like for my business, or I also know that, giving your clients products that make their skin more successful post electrolysis makes them happier overall, and understanding how to bring that in. So like all of those little milestones um, that you think, oh, it's going to take me a while to get there. When you start planning them, really starts to pull that in. And so I know that remind me who asked that question. I think that was Haley,
Haley,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So like when you were asking that question, and this is going to be something that in a couple weeks time, you're just going to be like, whoa, okay. When you bring somebody on, it is a matter of how you can work the space that you have to its maximum. So say for example, and like we have how many people right now on this call? Of the 12 people in here, we all can't work in one room and have a full-time week, right?
No.
But if you look at like how your week is structured, you can make a full-time week probably out of 3 people from one room based on a 32-hour work week stacked in there and not overwork the space and still be making a sizable amount, whether that would be 1099 somebody, whether that's, subleasing, whether that is an employee. It is maximizing that one space before you grow outside of that space.
And I was going to say, I've seen a lot of newbies that, not necessarily, but people that are thinking about scaling make that mistake. where you might work with somebody else, but you don't need to go to multiple rooms. You should really be maximizing the space that you have because that's how you're going to keep the costs down, and then you max out the profits. And so once you're maxed out with your profits out of that space, then it makes sense to really look into growing a bigger space. But like I knew someone that opened a space, let's say in San Diego, and then she decided to have an employee and opened a second location in a different city. But why do that? Now you have double the rents, and so it doesn't make sense in that way. Now, if you had, let's say, the one room, the one location, and like Stephanie said, you had your 3 people in there and you're maximizing means like 7 days a week. Why aren't you open 7 days a week? Start at 7 in the morning, go till 10 o'clock at night, like you can have people do schedules like that and the clients will be there for that. And once you've done that with one space, then it makes sense to go and open a new space. The question, Stephanie, if we want to break it down, so what Haley was asking, so she's going to be there for the course, which is great, but she wants to know what she can do to prepare now. So her second person is going to be attending school in May, so probably not done until like, let's say June 1st, right? Just a hypothetical start date, because you're in an unlicensed state, and so programs are shorter. Let's say machine comes about that time too, sure. So right now you have, I can only do 5 days a week currently. So is that just the limit on your space?
That's the limit, I feel like, on what I can physically handle. Last summer, I was doing 6 days a week, try to just
Yeah.
pay a bunch of taxes down, and
Yeah.
it was really hard on me.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's that
Yeah.
people forget like how physically demanding it is. You think you're sitting there, all day and it's just going to be like easy breezy, but it's very physically demanding. And even a 40-hour week is a lot, so it's like 8-hour days are long if you're doing 8 hours of insertion time. So
What I got for my farm.
it's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Y'all should see all the contraptions I have behind my desk at the office. Those students will walk over and I'm like scraping my arm, or I'm using my massage gun.
Yeah.
I know this sounds silly, but my BioFreeze, I will also like pair that with like Vicks Vapor Rub. I know that that's for your cold, but it massages so well that when you do all those things, it's a good glide. I do weird things to get myself to like maximize my time. But when we talk about like, okay, what would you do to prepare? You need to start looking at what your day looks like. Okay, so if, for example, start to look and see where your body starts to fatigue. Okay, so if your day you get really tired at 5 hours, then your days really shouldn't be more than like a 6-hour work day. And then the hours after that become the other individuals. So, and the way I think about this is you could go, you for 6 hours, have a 30-minute turnover time, and them for 6 hours.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and might be perfect because she's a total morning person and I'm not.
Yeah.
and
That's
that's where
exactly how you do it. Yeah.
that was me too. So like when I worked for my family's business, I was the person that got there at 5:30 in the morning. My first patient was at 6 a.m. I was done by 2 p.m. And a lot of times what would happen is I was finishing my day. The next girl was coming on and utilizing another treatment room until my room became available. And then bam, was in my room until 8 p.m. at night.
Okay.
Right. And you do that in a way that like you might not want to go to a 12-hour day of your business doors being open that day. Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to go to 7 days a
I'm
week.
just checking on one thing. I can still hear you.
Yeah, no worries. So, you might want to go to 7 days a week, but shorter days, and see if you can stack more appointments on there. I like to build my days one day at a time. So as I'm bringing on a new employee, we're going to fill that day. We're not going to open their schedule. Okay. So say, for example, someone's like, I'm available 7 days a week for like 24 hours a day. I'm not going to give you 7 days a week for 24 hours a day. It's not going to happen. But what I am going to give you is one day for like 6 hours. And then it's not going to be put a person at the beginning of her day and the end of her day. It's going to be put a person at the beginning and maybe a little bit of a gap because she is newer. She will need a little bit more of that recovery time because her body's getting used to the muscle memory, right? And when I say a little bit, I'm talking like 30 minutes, right? Not a lot. And then you start structuring her day that way so that you build upon one spot before you occupy more time outside that day. That's probably the first thing.
So Pauline then says that, yeah, I did 30 minutes for clients for Hannah when she started because she had a little bit of trouble with time management. And yeah, it does take a lot to kind of stay on task, you know, like I do 15-minute buffers and everybody just kind of has to like just be quick about it, you know, but it depends on what the tasks are in the office too. So, you know, if you have to reschedule clients and sales of products and all of these types of things, that does take more time in between clients. So you have to take that into account too.
So what I was trying to say before I got frozen was basically the tiered pricing is a big structure in there as well. As you are building her schedule, you are encouraging patients that are on your wait list or the people that have made you go to work 6 days a week are you'll start to curate the ones that aren't meant for your schedule. Okay. And I don't mean this like you don't want them. I mean, that could be a case, but it could be that they're not the right fit, but you know that like giving them an opportunity with somebody else might be a right fit. Okay.
Exactly.
So you start to like curate who's going to stay in your schedule and who's going to go into her schedule and to incentivize that transition into her schedule. Because if you don't incentivize it, people are going to be like, well, but you already did this appointment. Can I stay on? Can I? And it becomes problematic big time. So those are the big two that I would start with. And then while she's getting busy, make sure that you are like even now, while if she's at home at all during her time in school, okay, she should be cold calling people to let them know that she'll be starting with you in that time frame. Saying like, hey, I'm going to be coming to Haley's office here in June, and I just want to welcome you to my schedule. Here's this discount that we're doing for you when I start up, and you're going to build that onto that day. Those are like the least chaotic versions of how you can build your schedule.
Do you have a reception, Haley, or is it just a single room?
I'm in a salon suite, so there's a lobby, but there's not like a reception.
Yeah, I know. Because that's one thing that I like to do is a lot of my new people start at my front desk. And so, you know, they're answering the phones, they're booking the appointments, they get to know how things work in the office. And so that helps with the transition so that when they start as electrologists, they know what to do, you know? So like I have them even like clean, like turn over the rooms in between. It's not because I
No,
can't do
and
it,
I
but you
probably
know, they
will
get
have
used
her
to
do
everything.
some stuff like that, and maybe I can even have her fielding some phone calls and reaching out to clients that I haven't seen in a
Yes.
while. Like, you can come back at a discounted rate. Like, I
Yeah.
think I've built a strong
I
enough.
would not even put a maybe in front of those things. Haley, you need to be doing those. You
Okay.
need
Yeah.
to have her, like, don't say, I might be doing this. You will be doing it because that is how you will grow her schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went full mom mode there.
It's
Don't
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have her come in and do all the things, the extra tasks, like she can start with your sterilization even, you know, there's a lot of different things that she could do around your office. Maybe on the times when you're not there or in between or something like that, so that, you know, she can call clients and start different things. Is your schedule closed to new clients?
It had been, but right now I changed my booking to where anybody can book now.
So, but aren't you just booked solid?
You know, the last couple weeks I had some openings.
Yes, and openings. Okay.
I think because of spring break or whatever, and also starting the beginning of this year, I was having like tingly fingers every single day. So I've been giving myself an hour in between patients just to have enough time to like, I feel like I'm getting better. I've been sleeping with the braces on at night and taking the
Yeah.
medication.
Carpal tunnel, maybe.
No, I refuse to accept that diagnosis. I've been getting lots of massage and acupuncture, and I'm doing all
Yeah.
the
Cupping
hip-
has changed my life with my
Oh, I've been getting cupping too. It's amazing.
it's amazing. That medical massage, well, I hurt like I went to the gym. I feel like I did leg day on my arms afterwards. I'm going to be honest, like it's just like that much pain. But Yeah, it's a game changer. Melissa asked, what is the possible pay or how to pay an apprentice? Definitely we'll talk about like compensation opportunities in the bigger lecture next month. But I will say that like there are different ways and your state laws will matter. I do not remember where you're at, Melissa, in regards to where you're at in the States. So I would check with your employment laws there first and what you're allowed to do. That's like number one before like full stop before you do anything else. Every state's employment laws are a little bit different, and how you have to navigate that is going to be completely different state to state. When you think about like I have a contracted employee, okay, but I don't call it like I say it that way so that you guys understand that they are working under the name of Zapmaster, but they are like in the sense of our booking systems, um, our marketing, that kind of stuff, but I don't control their schedule. I don't control diddly squat outside of like the marketing aspect. Okay. And in doing that, they get like a higher percentage of what I would normally do because they're self-employed, essentially, they're contracted. And so that is a big difference from what I had done previously in running the family's business. Those were employees that had hourly plus commission, right? And so um you could sometimes you might have to do an hourly because the state requires you to have an hourly. Other states might require you can don't have requirements, and so you could do straight commission or straight hourly. I will tell you, um, like, this sounds a little messed up to me when I say it like this, but it's just the truth, is like, sometimes, we are incentivized by commissions over hourly. And so if you have someone that you know you need them to be eager in, building their own schedule, it's usually not gonna be based on, an hourly employee as much as it is a commission-based employee. And that is solely
Sort of like
because,
a split?
sometimes it could be a split, like, in the sense of, like, you know, what did they bring into the business? So, like, what did your person, provide, as
Yeah.
working under you or working with you? Is it 2 businesses working together? Are you guys sharing space? Are you gonna be her employer? Are you what are the tax laws looking like in your space, right?
Mm.
So, I don't wanna give you an exact number, but I will say that, like, what I'm seeing out there is kinda like hourly plus, as a new technician, you might be a lower, commission, like a 5 to 10% as a starting point in your first couple months. Once you become more proficient, they ensure that you are not creating like scarring and that kind of stuff in that first couple months. Then they might bring you up to more like a 10 to 15. Once that goes up, you might go up to like a 20%. And that you might coast at a 20 if you have hourly in there for a while. And then like gratuity obviously is in there, but remember like when gratuities happen, if you're the one allowing credit card processing, you are being hit with those fees and stuff like that. So you have to also like consider like, are they going to be
Right.
using their own credit card processing or yours? Like all of that plays into it. So I definitely think that like it is a much bigger, quite like bigger answer than just like what's a possible pay, how to pay them. An apprentice, you're usually not. I mean, if they're usually either paying you for training or they're working for free during their training. You're not usually paying the apprentice. It's not until they've completed their apprenticeship that they would be receiving pay. Um,
How long do you consider an apprenticeship? Like, what's standard? Is there a standard?
there's
Well,
no
there is in California, because in order to be an apprentice in California, you have to go through barbering and cosmetology. And normally it's like a 3-year thing.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so
Yeah,
it's
a long time.
it's not short. And there's like a requirement of how many hours they're supposed to be working and things like that. So, and usually as an apprentice, the place that apprentices you, what's the word? The printer?
Something
apprenticeship.
like that.
The
Apprenticeship, yeah.
they get the charge, so for the work that you do too. So I mean,
And like,
it's positive and negative, I guess.
so one of the things, and right now we're in the process of moving into a different style of education, but like one of the things that my program is considered an apprenticeship. Why is that? Because Washington State didn't have a school. They didn't have they had the codes, but that was it, right? And so my students get access to me for a very long time in their program. And a year and a half is what, even if they finish their program in, say, let's say 16 weeks between their theory and their hands-on, they went full time with everything, right? And they finish like the actual education of 600 hours in that time frame, they still get me for a year and a half, right? And so that's kind of like one of those unique things because it is apprenticeship style. Um, the more catch and release, as I like to call it, like somebody comes in, they get trained, and then you leave them like for them to flourish on their own. That's not an apprenticeship. That's straight up education. And so it's a little bit different in that space. The reason I'm switching up the format of it now is because I want to become a licensed training facility in my state. The only other place that is doing substantial trainings right now does if I remember correctly, I think it's like a 2-day training is what she's doing. I haven't looked at her website recently, but like does a couple day training and then like the theory is out of, I think it's the Milady book that if I remember, like the old one.
Mhm.
If I remember correctly, I would have to go look it up again. But like my program is like very similar to Joanne's, where it's 200 hours of theory. There are, weekly classes, and then like past that, it's 400 hours of hands-on. And in that hands-on, they have to hit all of those milestones for all their education. And so I don't want to just be an apprenticeship. I want to be able to bring myself into a space where the minute I'm a licensed school, pretty much any state that has a licensing program, even though my state is unlicensed, can then go to my program. I like right now, my program is eligible for Oregon and Idaho for licensure. Um, and then Nevada, technically it is now, but that's only because like if somebody goes and gets their Oregon license, they can then go and get their Nevada license, kind of like how you just did with Joanne, is like you got your California license and then the reciprocity came over. It's the same situation. And that was funny because pretty much no one at the Nevada board knew what I was talking about when I was trying to figure this out originally. Which is a whole other issue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
Oh my gosh,
It's
right?
it's a big issue.
Big issue. I recently Kansas, their program, their requirements are like very, very minimal. And they're a licensed state, but the licensing board has all mailboxes full to inquire anything, and they don't answer their phones. So I feel bad for like Kansas electrologists right now because it's like if you have any questions or if you're trying to become an electrologist there, I don't
Not gonna
know,
happen.
a carrier pigeon maybe. I don't know what's gonna work, but like something different. And then the master. Wait, Pauline, what do you mean the
Oh,
master?
it's what do you call the person doing the
Oh,
teaching the apprenticeship? It's the
why do
master.
you, why do you think I'm the Zap master?
So you don't
I'm
have to
like,
come up with that word.
no. I was like the master. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I am. 500 hour in our program. I think so. I know, Melissa, that was kind of a very roundabout way of saying like there's a lot of ways to pay them. I think the biggest way is figuring out what your finances and their finances can handle, especially when it comes to growth. Like when Haley, when you were asking that question, like, okay, like how do I do this? Well, what what is that person willing to not earn while they grow? And what are you willing to offload financially to get them to a point where they're busy? That is
Mhm.
another huge question.
And it has to
Because
be a win-win for both of us.
Mhm.
and it's not gonna be originally.
Yeah.
Joanny and I were laughing about this like recently where I was like, you know, it's not that, in any ways that like electrologists are hurting financially, right? But it's not like we're rolling in dough. When clients see how much we make an hour, they're like, oh, they're millionaires. And like, I mean, maybe like, but that's a really difficult thing to become. Like, life is expensive. And
Well,
so,
cap out, like the problem is with doing something like what we do is that you will only have as much work as what you can do with your two hands, unless you start to think about what scaling means for you. So, and even that, like the problem with the electrologist is that it's kind of like work like if you own a hospital or something like that, when you have highly specialized workforce, that workforce is expensive. So the highest cost of your profit and loss for an electrology business when you have employees is going to be salaries.
Mhm.
And it's going to be like 50 to 60% almost of what goes out in your expenses is going to be just straight up salaries.
Mhm.
And you don't have a choice because it's specialized work. So it's not, a receptionist at minimum wage or, something like that. Usually, at least for my area, average pay rate per hour, however you decide to do it, straight up hourly or hourly plus commission or whatever it is. You don't really do 1099s here if you're going to hire somebody else. It's not legal. So not that it doesn't happen, but it's not really legal. And so the pay range ends up being about 35 to 65 an hour, And so if you charge let's say $130 an hour, then 50% of that hourly rate goes straight to your employee. And so then out of that other 65 that's left over, you have the cost of supplies. You got to put in your rent, you got to put in your electricity, the internet, the Wi-Fi, right? Your booking system, the supplies that was used. And so like everything that goes into that. So then what you're left with, so you're going to calculate all of your cost per treatment plus all of the other variables that go into that, and then you're left with, a little peanut, and hopefully that's the profit that goes into that. So it's just, it's a lot, but if you're pricing it right, and if you are, I guess, like I feel like hourly plus commission is probably safer just because it's like, I'd like minimum wage, for example, could be an hourly. And you have to do that in California. You don't have a choice. So you have to do at least an hourly rate. But then if you add the variable where they make their money is the commission portion of it, you can make the commission high, but they will only make money as long as the money comes into the office.
Mhm.
So it's if you're straight up hourly, and I know somebody that does this in Beverly Hills, I think she's like 65 an hour. Plus,
Mhm.
like she pays for like health insurance, 401k, and all this stuff, which is great opportunity, I think. But if your client cancels, you're still getting paid $65 an hour, right? And so those buffers, those 30 minutes you want to put in between, that's
Mm.
not paid time technically, but it should be for an employee. That's
Mhm.
where that minimum wage comes in. And so if they're 30 minutes where they're twiddling their thumbs and they're on their phone or whatever it is, then I'm just paying like half of minimum wage, $8, So it's not a huge cost. I mean, they should be doing things around the office, but the truth is most of the time they're probably, stretching, taking a break. That's perfectly normal. So it's, you have to kind of think about it that way too.
Pauline had a good point. You have to also consider your current profitability as well. One of the big things when you start looking, I mean, you need to make P&L statements, profit and loss statements. You need to be able to see what is coming in and what is going out. I mean, this year is, and I'm obviously operating as a new business now, right? And so it's just all loss. I mean, like, and does that suck? Yeah, like, but also, like, in that same space, it shows me that I'm growing at a rate that was far exceeding my expectations. And so then you have to remember, like, to believe in yourself in those spaces, like, hey, like, we've done all this amazing work. Yeah, it's costing us a pretty penny right now, but it lays that foundation, a strong foundation for the future of, your business. I look at when I love watching your guys' growth on like social media and that kind of stuff because it's like it's cool to see how each one of us kind of individualizes what electrology means to us and like the importance of it. But like also, um, and just because not everyone's camera's on, I don't know, if everyone on the call, um, identifies as a woman, but, like, we're for the majority of this call, I believe that everyone, um, is a woman-owned business. I mean, like, think about that. 50 years ago today, you couldn't even get a credit card without a man's name, and you own a business, right? And you're considering bringing on employees. That's gotta, like, galvanize something within your soul to know that you can do these really incredible things. And yes, it's going to be hard and there's a lot of finances that come out in that, but you're doing something that like your grandmother's probably could not do to the same level. And that's a
Or
huge
my
thing that
mom.
or even your mom. I mean, like, that's a huge part. And so it's just a really beautiful reminder of like, and those are the same stories that happen on our table. All the women that come into us with severe hair problems that are just trying to get back into the workforce after being a stay-at-home mom and taking care of the family, and they have this hirsutism that's kind of holding them back from feeling beautiful in a workplace again. And you're just like encouraging that space by providing great services, possibly bringing on somebody that can also help you when you cannot do it because it is not healthy for you to work 6 days a week, which is why you have finger tingling. Like,
Mhm.
like those are things like that's every one of those steps is you got to remember, like, holy buckets, I'm doing this. And that's really, really important. So I hope that every one of you realizes, like, you go, girl. Like,
Yeah.
and just like really
And there's an opportunity.
an opportunity for sure. Today, we want to shine some light on some of our amazing partners who are helping shape the future of electrology education, services, distribution, and so much more. We're thrilled to have such amazing partners and supporters. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned professional, these vendors and schools have what you need to succeed.
Hey there, electrologists. My name is Hazel Bloom. I'm a life coach for the LGBTQIA+ community and its allies. As a trans woman, I have done the hard work and introspection to figure out who I am, what I want from life, and how to live authentically as myself. These are universal skills that I can teach you and help you gain the confidence to thrive. Also, I know that the conversations with clients on the table can get a bit intense and beyond the scope of electrology, so I'd invite you to refer them to me so they can get the support they need through a tough time instead of taking that burden on yourself. I'm also available as a resource for you if you just need some assistance figuring out how to help a client or to ask any questions. Whatever you need, I can help. My website is kiwifruitcoaching.com, or you can email me directly, hazel@kiwifruitcoaching.com.
Heading to the Golden State, California Electrology Academy offers an immersive learning experience that prepares students for national certification as well as many states with reciprocity to California's licensing exams. Led by Joannie and Joanne Gonella, they bring decades of quality services and education. CEA offers flexible schedules, open enrollment, and a supportive learning environment, making them a perfect place to start your electrology journey. Be sure to check them out for cutting-edge education right in sunny Southern California. And visit electrologyacademy.com. That's electrologyacademy.com. Looking for education in the middle of it all? Head over to the Midwest United States to Illinois Dedicated Electrology Academy. The idea is building strong foundations for future electrologists. Their small class sizes, expert instructors, and modern facilities make IDEA a top choice for students seeking high-quality education. Your career in electrology starts here. Welcome to IDEA.com. That is welcome to IDEA.com. Thanks for tuning in to Electrolysis Unplugged. Be sure to check out our amazing sponsors for the best in electrology tools, training, technology, and so much more. Now, back to the show. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our E2C questions. I know that we took a long time on that one, but we still got 30 minutes to talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. And like, that's why I made it a 2-hour lecture. This is a long conversation about how to grow you, right? How to, the brand that you created, like, it's important. So, okay, so, one of you guys asked, how do you know what insurance coverage you need to practice electrolysis? Okay, great question. First is going to be finding providers, other individuals in the electrology community that are using insurance companies that are already approved to, like, yes, coverage for electrolysis. There are quite a few out there, not as many as there used to be, but I would start with talking to your community first, talking to your instructor first to see what they're using in your region and that kind of stuff, to see what those rates look like. and then going a little bit more global, like, and seeing what those individuals are doing, as well. Usually at education events, I know at the AEA conference in the past, they've had them, but I haven't seen any insurance companies as of today.
Maybe the
Uh,
regular beauty shows might have some, like if you
Yeah.
do like Las Vegas or something like that, they might have some companies there that are for that. But before we get too far, we have to kind of talk about, like, usually you'll need professional insurance,
Yes. Oh, sorry,
professional
yes.
liability.
Mhm.
So that is for in case you get sued, right? So professional liability is going to be the first one. Property insurance, so insure the things, your machine, the stuff inside your office. You'll want to make sure that you have that kind of coverage too. And then if you
Mhm.
have employees, I'm sorry to say, you're going to need workman's comp,
Yeah.
and that is expensive.
It's
So,
expensive.
mhm.
So pricey.
Mhm.
So pricey.
So that's when once you have employees, there's going to be a little bit more that goes into that. But if you don't have employees, and you can always, like, even if you're a an incorporated business, you can exempt yourself from workman's comp as the owner of the business, and so you don't have to pay for yourself. But for any employees that you do have, you will have to on disability insurance, Eileen added, and that's especially for self-employed people, because you're not going to be paying into disability unless you can issue yourself a W-2. And so unemployment, disability, all that kind of stuff is not things that you're going to be putting aside for yourself. So, like, I mean, we had that case in point during COVID when everybody was forced to shut down, and anybody that was like in the beauty industry, and they called them the freelancers, right? All the freelancers who were self-employed could not get unemployment insurance like everybody else. They did change the laws a little bit because they had to. There was too many people that had no money, and their $600 checks weren't really going to get you much of anything. But otherwise, a freelancer is not eligible for that kind of stuff unless you incorporate your business, and you're able to issue yourself, make yourself an employee of your own business, and then that changes. But yes, there's going to be some extra insurances you're going to have to make sure you have, and so that's also another one.
Pauline had said, wondering if it was too expensive to change from a 1099 to a W-2. Talk to your CPA first.
Mhm.
Have them run the numbers for you on what would be more feasible for your company, and then that's the best way to make that decision. Because they might be able to help you see things that financially make better sense long run for your practice.
And if you're doing that, Pauline, I mean, the pay has to change. As a 1099, you should be paying them more
Mhm.
because they take on all of the liability. They take on, you don't have to pay their insurance. You don't have to pay much of anything really, because they're their own business. So they should have their own coverage.
Mhm.
That's one of the perks. You don't have to pay unemployment and or any kind of employment taxes. They take that on, but as a caveat to that, then that means that you usually have to pay more for what they're coming to do in your office. When you have an employee, that number tends to be lower. You keep more, but you take on a lot more. And so, it's give and take when it comes to that. If you have a 1099 now and you're paying them, like, let's say 50%, you can't just make them a W-2 and keep the 50%, because then all of the loss is really on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And that's a big part about it. And a lot of times, so for example, my contractor, I literally everywhere I talk about it, outside of like explaining, what they're doing for Zap, um, it's a contracted electrologist. You have to build it into your dialogue and make sure that like you have it written out in a contract with them that because they are contracted, like literally you're going to have an employment like a working contract, not employment but working.
Mm.
And it's so important to like fine tune those details as well. Going back to the insurance conversation, there are providers up here that utilize, and I don't know if they're outside of this region. I was shocked by the price, and I showed it to my insurance agent, and they were like, "No." But hands-on trade is like super duper popular up here. It's like 175 for the year. For your, why would have to pull up. It is supposed to be fairly comprehensive. I'm gonna pull up this number because it's been a long time. But I just thought like 175. I pay like 175 a month for my insurance, and so I'm looking this up now. So there are little ones like that that people use, and it's like it's fine. But like I know that you like your machines weren't covered in there. It was more along the lines of the liability stuff. Yeah, professional liability quotes, simply business. I'm just seeing if I can find. It's an association.
Mm.
So basically like a collective, and you guys are all kind of coming into the same spot. So if somebody like messes up in there, it could bite you in the booty pretty hard with rates. I haven't heard much about it outside of just like people talking about it up here all the time. But there are a lot of places regionally that might still cover it. And it's really important to like sit down. I use the Hartford for my insurance. Marine agency, I was contacted with them, and then they recently were like, hey, we're moving you over to Hartford, off of the one of
Yeah, that's, I mean, it used to be the
the
London
London,
something
yeah.
underwriters. One nice thing about using, so usually like using marine agency is going to cost more, I think, than maybe like going out and kind of sourcing different things. But you have an insurance agent, and this insurance agent handles all of my policies. And
Mhm.
so like they just sent me an email saying like, you have employees, where's your workman's comp? Here's a quote, sign there type of deal, so they make sure that you kind of have the coverage that you need. And so that it's for me, that just takes another thing off my back. I don't have to like source three different companies and get individual quotes and always stay on top of it. I just have an insurance agent that kind of does it. So yes, it's going to cost a little bit more because of that. But like when London underwriters stopped doing those types of policies, or they actually find cheaper policies. So
Mhm.
they'll say, you know what, we used to be with this one for this, but this company actually charges like $100 less a year. Let's switch you over to that. And so I don't have to search anything. They just kind of do that for me, which is nice.
That was super. I just had that happen. Like they were like, hey, like we found a savings of 120 for the year. Do you want
Yeah.
to switch? Like, yes. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's
So then they
one
do it
less
for you.
hour of something in my workday.
And
Um,
one thing that I do want to mention sometimes with professional liability, especially if you're going to be doing insurance work, so you're making yourself like a medical provider, sometimes your minimums have to be higher than they would need to be if you were just like staying under the umbrella of the beauty industry.
mhm.
So just keep that in mind that you might need higher minimums sometimes than certain insurance companies are even able to provide.
So the hands-on trade, it's professional liability, general liability insurance, and insurance. Then there's basically like a $2 million of professional liability insurance coverage per occurrence, general liability insurance, slip and fall insurance in case your clients get hurt. And then it talks about the breakdown of everything. Um, I showed this to my agent, and they just were like, this doesn't even look legit, but I know that it is. I know, but like my agent was like, "How?" So I never did any more research on it because I was like, you know what? If you don't know, I don't need to have it, right? Like we're good. But they have like student insurance and that kind of stuff too. So if anybody else wants to go do the homework, they can. I don't feel like doing the homework. I am
And
happy my
liability insurance is while it doesn't happen, I think, quite as often. I mean, the bigger you are, right? So taking on employees, Haley and Pauline, I know you've got Hannah with you too. You're opening the door to more possible issues than when you just stay with just yourself in your office doing things exactly the way you want them to be done. And so it can become an issue. Like I once I don't know if somebody told me or if I read it somewhere, but I don't know if you knew this, but if a client is coming to my office and I'm in, a commercial building, so there's common parking, there's other businesses around me, they're not coming to my house. And they happen to trip and fall on the sidewalk outside, right? So in the parking lot. So again, common space, common parking lot. They're coming to my business, but they trip and fall on the curb and they hurt themselves. I can be held liable for their trip and fall outside, even though it's not my sidewalk. It's actually should be maintained by the landlords or anything like that. So it's kind of scary when you think about it, because like if you bust your face on the sidewalk because the landlord isn't maintaining it, there's really not much I can do aside from maybe go get some cement and fix it myself, which you know you will never do. So, but you can be held liable for it. And so it's important, I think, to make sure that you have the appropriate type of coverage. And it's not because I've never had to use it in my 20 years. I've never had to use it, but I've heard of instances where it's happened.
Yeah.
So it does happen. You want to be careful, better safe than sorry.
And I will say that like the larger your company gets, and this is not to deter you guys, because guys, look at Joanna and I like expanding our businesses. Like it's not like we're just twiddling our thumbs. So like we're telling you things because we've experienced and
I just
seen.
want to be prepared, you know, like be prepared, be organized. And that's going to be kind of the name of the game is you want to do this, great, do it, please. But be organized in how you're doing it. Go into it with a strategy, with a plan, with, you know, like having done your homework so that you're doing it the right way.
And like to say that is to say that as you grow your business, you also grow the target for people that are not ethical, right? And so they see you as this super awesome business person that looks like dollar signs to them. And it sometimes means that you might have false claims. You might have like I have not had them happen to me, okay? But I've had them happen to colleagues, and it's like as they've grown, that they've experienced things that have led them down paths where it's very frustrating because they've had to like prove that they were in the right. And it takes a lot of work. And like this comes down to like when you really start thinking about that, anytime you bring somebody on, when you are doing insurance claims, if you're not documenting if there's an incident report, okay, so like somebody got injured at your office and you didn't document it, okay, it's a problem. If you're not documenting adverse reactions to electrolysis and someone then complains that you burn them, right, or blistered them, right, that's a problem if you don't have documentation that something like if there's no changes on your end, awesome. But if you didn't document it, it's your word against theirs, right? And so that comes down to, and I know that Pauline, we talked about this recently about doing like a charting one, is going in there and detail out each part of your day. I know it sucks to do long-winded admin work, but guess what? When you own a business, kind of part of the gig, right? And so as you bring these people on, don't just assume that like you have a verbal contract and all is good. It might not be.
Yeah.
And it's okay to protect like the little CYA to protect your booty. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely a consideration. I think we have enough time for like 1 to 2 more questions tonight. How do I find an accountant and what do I need to look for? So, my favorite thing is to ask the people I know, the people on my table, the people that I trust in business. That's usually how I find my referrals. I'm in a very unique space right now where I had to outsource my referrals because I didn't know enough people in town to know who was legit. And then when I started trying to find somebody in town, it was painstakingly bad. And that's because I live in a smaller town, right? And so you have to like extend your fingers a bit. Google reviews are a huge benefit to you. See what people are saying. See how people are happy. Talk to individuals that like that are professional CPAs and see if you have a good fit. Interview a bunch of them. What you need to look for is they need to be a CPA. Like full stop. They have to be a CPA. It's going to protect you the most in regards to if anything ever gets documented incorrectly. once they have their signature on that, they are the ones that were like basically making sure that all your T's were crossed, all your I's were dotted. And that CPA number is what protects you from eventual
Mhm.
investigations in finances, like an audits and that kind of stuff.
And you know, when you're talking about doing all of the bookkeeping and the taxes and everything, you know, like there's a difference between a bookkeeper and somebody like an enrolled agent and a CPA. So there are differences when it comes to that. Bookkeeping just means that you're pretty much categorizing all of your transactions so that when taxes come around, they can be put in the categories and they can see what should be an expense and taken out of your profits and what is extra and to a certain amount. Like some things they can only take like 50% of that can be expensed and the other 50 just is I guess not I don't want to say like or 50% is tax deductible and the rest is just a straight up expense, right? So there's different things to look at. If you should be using some sort of accounting software, honestly. And I've been using QuickBooks with all the companies, and so all the transactions I've connected, all my cards and all my bank accounts, and it's separated per like one account for each business. That way, and I go through every single transaction for all of the businesses for all of the things that I spend. So even if my CPA firm has bookkeepers and they do also the bookkeeping, I do the rough bookkeeping. They then go into it and make sure that everything's categorized right. And then the accountant, when they get their hands on everything, they just have the long list of everything and then they can just feed it into tax software, right? So this is how much on, gas that was for the purpose of driving for things, right? This is how much was taken out for marketing. This is how much was expensed for this. And so they'll then run the taxes using all of that information, but you have to do bookkeeping. So don't be the person that at the end of the year goes to your tax agent with a shoebox full of receipts, or that just is like trying to scour through all of your credit card statements. Just, I would say, get your business connected to something like QuickBooks. I'm sure there's other ones out there. And once a week, you're just going through all of your transactions and you're putting them in categories. And then that way, at least you have a rough P&L. It can run reports. We were talking about profit and loss statements. And so you want to see how much you spend, how much money, how much revenue you're getting in per month, how much is coming out, what is the percentage of each thing that's coming out. So you can see maybe where you're overspending and then you can correct, so you can course correct halfway through the year. Like, why am I spending so much on supplies? It really shouldn't be this much. And then you can go down and say, okay, there seems to be like with a lot of employees, that's also important because I want to see if I'm buying what I should be buying in products and not too much. So it's not because I'm trying to be like, counting probes or anything, but people have their own machines and I want to make sure that my supplies don't go anywhere else. My supplies are for my salon. They're not for them to take home and then maybe like they have a side business, they work on family or whatever it is. You need to have some oversight. If you don't have any oversight, people might take advantage of you and then it's your fault because you're not checking.
Yeah, inventory is so huge. And it's not because it's not a matter of like not trusting as it is like it's more along
if you just want to make sure what sells and what doesn't.
Right.
Right?
I mean, like,
you don't want dead stock either.
Yeah, what's been sitting in like my glove order, like how long has my glove order been sitting in the closet, right? Because I do auto shipping on that. Because that might be degrading. It doesn't happen as much here, but like in Arizona, my gloves sat in a hot closet and they would just break down if I didn't go through them at the rate I anticipated. And so then I had to like adjust how much I was ordering each time. There's a two-part question here just because we have a couple a little bit left, which is like the first part is do we use one distributor for all of our stuff, which is kind of funny because we're both distributors. And so the answer, even within our own spaces, is no. We source products from multiple companies. But I don't know if you do this, Joanie, but I like to do this just because whenever I go to conventions, I want to buy a little bit from everybody. Because if all of those businesses are profitable, in the back of my head, I feel like that we all are. I don't know. It's just like we're doing great. And so I do try to purchase from others as well. If I can't get the product myself, like all of my Apple stuff, I get, even though I'm a distributor, I get it all from Joanie, or well, um, her dad. But like that's my Apple stuff, right? And then all of my Silhouette Tone stuff, I'm a distributor for them, so I get it from there. I get stuff from Hinkle still as a distributor. I mean, there's benefits to so much of the different products, and some of this stuff is interchangeable. Um, like red cords, black cords, that kind of stuff. Like it's like you don't have to always buy it from the same spot. Of course, we love when you buy it from us. And since you guys are all members, you get the 10% discount. But like that's a benefit. I'm like, but all of that kind of plays into that same thing is like, if you are getting good service somewhere, elevate it. If you're not getting good service somewhere, ask us and we'll help you find somebody. If it's not like something that we carry, right? Because we tend to mingle with a lot of the other individuals to try to see what we can do better for our community. The second part of that was, and I can't remember whose machine broke, but somebody told, um, okay, so if you can't get your machine fixed right away, and I just want you to know in the back of your head, and mine is, the ones that I have are 13.5 megahertz in stock right now. But I can get you a Silhouette Tone 13.5 megahertz machine probably within the week. And we're running a 10% off deal. So like if you need it and it's like your machine's dead, by all means, I can take care of you. I know that there's a big backlog for Apple's, and that's why I'm saying it. Otherwise, I'd put you in the same machine that you're already in and put you in Joanne's schedule. But I do know that I have Silhouette Tones in stock right now. The ST250s, they're a 13.5 megahertz multi-modality machine. And if you need it, I got you. I know that Robin recently was talking to you about the machine as well. Robin, there's a couple little line items that when I message you back later on that we'll go through in your text message, but I like it's pretty easy to get those out right now. I think they just had a surplus, and I know that they're like talking about new things in the market and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that has something to do with it. But
Yeah, and I like Silhouette Tone. I had Silhouette Tone before Dectro, and I mean they're all nice machines.
Yeah.
It's
And one thing I guess that I do want to point out, like I know that there's a big backlog on the Apple's machine. I know we've talked about it before. One thing that we are doing, we have been doing this for a while, but if you know that you're going to be needing a machine and you're just thinking about like the cost of how much it would be, because we're not able to get them out to you for a while, we are just taking deposits and payments. So even if you're not able to fork over, you think you want an XL, Angie, you can just call, put down a deposit, send monthly payments, and then by the time it comes in, it just has to be paid in full. But you're not going to need to fork over, all of the money for it up front. So just keep that in mind, okay? You're able to kind of put it down on it, and then at least it allows us to order it for you, so it just starts that clock. And then usually what happens is the shipments come in, we start at the top of our stack and we call the person, and if it's paid in full, the machine goes. If it's not, then we ask for payment. If they can't do it, we go to the next one. So there's always a chance that things might move a little bit faster, just because it just depends. Some people are like, I'm not quite ready yet, and so then the next shipment that comes in, we'll start with them again. So it makes it a little bit easier to just kind of have that little waiting period. You just put down a deposit, pay some payments, and then your machine, as soon as it comes in, will contact you.
Yeah, that happened with me. I mean, you all took care of me. Like I think I bumped somebody because they weren't quite ready, and
Yeah.
I mean, and I got lucky. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm like, yeah, and it's my second 27, right? I
Yeah.
love it. So I think all machines have their assets,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
have to say it's that, and I've just been fortunate enough to kind of upgrade machines along the way. I'm old. I'm old, but yeah, I
The other
like
thing-
that. You all
I
do take care of
wasn't
me.
100% because I know Joanie was the one that caught the message, but um, Angie, are you working with one machine right now? Are you down and out?
No, I have a junior as a backup because of the wait on the
Good.
Atlas was when I bought it, of course, was like 6 months at that time. So I rented a junior from my school so I could start working. And then when I got my Excel in, I just chose to finish paying off the junior and keep it as a backup. So I was able to switch him out and keep rolling, thankfully. And I actually forgot how much I really like the junior. Like it's a good little
Yeah.
worker.
That's a workhorse. Yeah. for
My
sure.
biggest fear
Your
is though, that I'm
junior
gonna-
is going to be pretty similar to some of the 13 megahertz machines that are out there, you know, so it's not like you're going to get anything too different
Mhm.
than what you're already using, sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
One of the
what
things,
the
just like
tone
Joanie-
reminded me of. Like I liked it because it reminded me of what I worked with, and when you know your numbers, you just they're all good machines. I like that sort of tone. That was nice.
Yeah, and whenever you guys end up having to like switch machines, whether it goes to Atlas, Silhouette Tone, Instron. I mean, Joanie and I have played with a lot of different electrolysis machines. If you get stuck, it's just a matter of giving us a call to help you kind of process through it, so that you get to know your machine a little bit better. But like, I always will do a consultation after someone purchases a machine with us, so they can understand, like, especially if it's different than what they've already had.
Yeah.
Like, get them there. You guys all do know that right now there is a international shortage for ballet insulated probes. I I know at our office we just sold the last of them. I don't know how you guys are doing, but we tried to go order more and they're like, yeah, there's only like sixes, like size 6. I'm like, nobody's gonna buy that. I'm like,
I don't know how much we have left on the shelves.
I'm like a little harpoon. Like, but the stainless steel with them is 20% off this month. So if you guys are needing it from either one of us, I mean, like, it's not a stackable deal on that one. It's not like you get 30% off on probes because we don't get to do that on probes because it comes from it comes from the high ups on that one. But absolutely 20% off is going on for the stainless steel. So if you can't find insulated, we can tell you what to do with that energy to bring it back down to a non-insulated probe so you can still work if you're using one piece. If you're using two piece, you guys don't have any issues with the insulation right now, right? You guys are okay.
It's different type of insulation. Yeah. So
Exactly.
ballet does something different. Yeah, we had some back orders with the probes, but that's been caught up. And from what I actually just got a text that we're getting like 38 back ordered machines shipped next week. And so we're going to be going down that list pretty quickly. I think they're starting to catch up. So, just hopefully we're kind of getting towards the end of that insane wait, and hopefully we'll be able to get those machines out.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
good.
that's so good. I
Mhm.
was like, no. Whenever I teach the kids, the saplings, on the 27 megahertz, I'm like, I'm really sorry, but you're not gonna be able to get this for 10 months. So order it now. It's a struggle. So,
Yeah,
well, that's it for tonight.
that's right. All right. So if that's all, then we'll say goodnight to everybody and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye.